Hello, I'm James Woodcock from pixelrefresh.com. I am in Kenilworth to visit Zapp Live 2025. So we're going to have a little explore around the event and just see what computers and consoles on this Commodore based event has on offer. So come with me and let's have a little exploration. So as we enter the sliding doors into Zapp Live 2025, this is an event in collaboration with Arcade Club, Retro Games Ltd, Southwest Amiga Group and Retro Computer Museum, which is in Leicester. It's a 2-day event and there's plenty of talks, and the most important thing is of course hands-on displays. So this is an Amiga and Commodore event primarily. There are other consoles and computers also on hand to take advantage of, but in this room, this first one of the smaller rooms, has a couple of the Amiga groups in there. So you can see an Amiga 1200 case there in a very fetching black, the authentic Amiga 1200 in its original white. And then let's just soak in some of the atmosphere. I've decided not to include music in this video so you can just hear some of the music that's playing back. This is particularly prevalent as we go into the Commodore 64 room and hear some of the SID music chip in its full effect. This is the larger room with the Retro Computer Museum, set up with numerous Commodore 64s of the breadbin and the C64Z version, which is the one I've owned when I was younger and still have a working version today, which is fantastic, of course. They are pretty much built like tanks, these things, just like the Amiga A500, but I think anyone who's owned a Commodore 64 will delight in that SID chip music. So I'm going to shut up just for a few minutes just so you can hear some of that going on now. Of course, events like Zapp Live 2025 and the myriad around the UK and thankfully worldwide too just pull at your nostalgic sensibilities. Seeing those machines that we had when we were younger and grew up with, our first computers, our later computers, the graphics of 8-bit and 16-bit devices, whether they are console or computer. There's just something fantastic about each and every one of them. Here's one autographed by Rob Hubbard, who's a very famous Commodore 64 musician. Many of these Commodores have more modern accessories plugged in so they can access multiple games. Thankfully, no waiting for the tape drive to load the game, which can take quite a number of minutes. Of course, one of the many things I absolutely love about any of these events are parents bringing in their children to share their own childhood memories. Seeing a youngster playing something like a Commodore 64 with a wide smile on their face is a truly magical experience for both the child and indeed the parent. For many of us who wish to share this gaming joy, these retro gaming and computer events are absolutely essential for establishing an interest for those who never got to experience it at the time, the hardware and games when they were first released. If we want to see this rich gaming heritage survive for say another 30 years or beyond, we certainly need to ensure we are inspiring the next generation too. So bring your children, let them get hands-on with these classic computers and consoles. There's certainly many events like this and museums. I've been to many around the UK, and the fact that you can get hands-on at many of them are certainly part of the appeal. Here's a Vectrex. I've got a Vectrex and the wonderful, unique machines with their vector display. So instead of a raster size screen, you have a nice vector based display where it actually only draws the lines it needs to instead of going line by line. These modern overlays with their lighting certainly add a new depth and, dare I say, a 3D aspect to the Vectrex. And again, youngsters were really drawn to this and were very surprised that it was over 40 years old.
So hopefully it will come over to, no, not so. 50 hertz seems to be the sweet spot.
And for any child who was born in the 80s, a BBC Micro would have probably featured at that school. Many happy memories indeed, and that keyboard was always fantastic. Something a little bit more modern now with the Nintendo 64 and GameCube, and a rather swanky original Xbox in green with additional lighting. The Amiga CD32, Commodore's console-like device. Didn't have a very long life, but there it is with its A500 hardware and a CD-ROM drive to boot. You'll have to let me know in the comments your memories of some of these devices, and in particular the CD32 controller. What do you think? It's not the best thing in the world, but hey, it's maybe functional enough. There's quite a few Sega Saturns at the event as well. Sega Saturn's, of course, probably one of the most underrated consoles ever released because it didn't sell particularly well outside of Japan. And a crystal original Xbox, and this controller. Can you remember which game this one was for? Yes, of course, Steel Battalion. You probably need a degree just to know what all of the buttons actually do in this game, so you certainly needed to practice, and I would imagine refer to the manual, which none of us really do probably enough. This game probably meant you had to. At any retro event, any good one, you are going to be absolutely inundated with a variety of different mug designs, and so your kitchen should be absolutely fully stocked by now. Plenty of accessories, and this is where in the retro community it is really fantastic. To go with your amazing mug, you can also get accessories to make your Amigas or Commodore 64s and beyond a little bit more easier to work with HDMI outputs, loading games into your Commodore 64 rather than using tapes or discs. They are actually a file you can just insert instead for a flash. Variety of games now at the stalls available. Books aplenty. David Pleasance there. People will know him from his Commodore days, who's also written a great selection of books. Commodore The Inside Story, certainly highly recommended from my point of view. And a brand new game for the Spectrum next, coming out soon by Tony Warner and Stu Cambridge. Should be having a separate video for this soon, as well as I've interviewed both of them. If you can't get an original Amiga, or you haven't got a nice monitor to easily plug it into, well, why don't you go for something like the A500 GS instead, which is a nice emulation version it's a little bit more user friendly. An Amiga A1200 with a transparent case, and I do like these little dial wheels so you can select what software you're going to be loading into them. These are one of the many ease of life things we all want to see, and the retro space every year is bringing more and more to the table. Amiga Addict and Pixel Addict were also present, and it's nice to actually be able to find those in many of your newsagents. And finally, there's always plenty of talks at these events as well, with some of the well-known characters, developers, artists, music composers and beyond. Well, that's it for ZZAP Live 2025. I hope you liked this little quick exploration of the event, and hopefully see you there next time.